Walker Cronkite. Here's the new side. This is what happened.
That's how we pay for this guy. Basically, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do I need a microphone for my introduction on them or whatever?
I'm guessing you can just use your loud ones because we don't have a secondary microphone for you.
I speak loud enough for everybody.
I think that would be good.
People, do you have a can of pop back here anyplace?
A what?
Can of pop soda?
Soda?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We didn't bring any.
Okay. Well, if you didn't bring any, then you probably don't have any.
That's freezer. But that doesn't
No.
mean. How about some orange drink?
No, just pop. No, I want a can of
Some soda.
soda just for demonstration, yeah.
For demonstration.
But if there's not any, it's not a big deal.
We can send somebody after one. Just
No, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's not a big deal, so, okay.
Do you want a packet of sugar?
No, probably not.
No, because, no. I know what he's doing.
I don't.
Well, then you can try to talk about it in the diabetic. And what good soda does for you.
Hi, my name's Slider.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate that. Hi, Sons of Silent Slider, Northern Iowa. Nice to meet you guys.
I've been to 2 or 3 of your
Have you?
seminars. I've been missing before.
Okay. Well, I appreciate
It's
it.
always good to keep it fresh in the head.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? You bet.
Fresh for some and you for some.
Good. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you guys. See, you're well represented. I let your brothers know I appreciate that. And thanks for your service too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's like autographs. You gotta sell them.
Like I mentioned again, if you haven't had your blood sugar checked, the two ladies back here, get your blood sugar checked before we start, if you would, please.
Don't forget. You'll be there.
How are you?
Good.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Slide up by you.
Yep. Land Shark? Are you going, Land Shark? He's always pushing that. He's been there for the last 50 years in a row. Land Shark, are you planning on going this year?
Fremont, I got 2 spots. I quit jobs to go to Fremont and work places like that. I'm gonna hit the litter box.
Okay.
Sweet Carol's here.
I got one up there, honey.
Okay. Do you have it in your calendar, what day we talked about? Was it October 19th?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I don't. I shut my phone off now. It's the 25th and 6th, I believe, of October.
Of October, okay. 25th and 6th, okay.
So they pretty much cover the whole United States.
Yeah, that would be a good time to do it because there's not as much going on then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you ever give any presentations like at Sturgis?
Yeah, I've done a lot at Sturgis,
Good.
but not so much anymore. You know, everybody's there to party,
Yeah.
but usually you still get a half decent crowd. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yep.
place has changed a lot since we first started going up.
Oh man,
It
I
just
was
got
there
so
in
commercialized.
1965
Oh,
was
wow.
my first year, and we've made every year since. If you haven't had your blood checked, please do that. And also, they have a chart for body mass index back there too. It'll make the class more interesting if you get your blood checked. Now, if they thought I said drug test. No, blood test. Blood test. Thanks you guys for being here. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Already? Hope I don't disappoint.
It is my privilege, really is, to present Dick Slider Gilmore. If none of you have ever seen him before, you're in for a real treat, let me tell you. Slider has been, well, I'm just going to read his bio here. He has received his EMT rating from Spencer Municipal Hospital in 1985. He received EMT 1 rating from Spencer in 87. He was a volunteer for the Royal Iowa Fire and Rescue from 86 to 206, working in the EMS capacity. Founding member and official of the local Clay County EMS Association at different times during those years. Okay. Also, he was the founding member of the Northwest Iowa Critical Incident Stress Debriefing Team in the EMS capacity for many years. He was a basic life instructor for 10 years. Slider developed many motorcycle safety and educational programs during his career. He has taught in 40 states over the past 30 plus years. He was introduced into the Sturgis Motorcycle Hall of Fame, the Sturgis Freedom Fighters Hall of Fame, the National Motorcycle Hall of Fame in Anamosa, Iowa, the Motorcycle Riders Hall of Fame in Burgerville, Indiana, the American Motorcycle Hall of Fame in Pinkerton, Ohio. Just because of the educational programs he has given and all that good stuff that I just mentioned before. And he's been riding motorcycles for well over 60 years. I'm assuming you started before you were 20. 19, okay. Okay, so a few over 60, not too many. He says that motorcycle riding is one of the passions in his life and is extremely interested in improving the emergency care and continuing care of motorcycle crash victims. Slider is a founding member of the two-wheel trauma team of 4 presenters, which started in 1986 and continues to date. The two-wheel trauma class teaches pre-hospital personnel, doctors and nurses about motorcycle crashes. His expertise with two-wheel trauma classes centers on the mechanisms of injuries and motorcycle crash victims. Let me introduce you once again to Slider Gilmore.
I'm really glad to be here. I've got a lot of really neat stuff to share. When we go back about 10, 12 years ago, and I got a call, and it was to go see one of the guys from the Galloping Goose Motorcycle Clubs. He was on his deathbed, and he was dying of a disease called diabetes. And his deathbed wish to me was, will you put on a program on diabetes? Because none of my brothers in my club really understand at all what I've gone through. Said, would you do that for me, Slider? And of course, at a deathbed wish, you say, absolutely. So I did it for his club and a sister club of theirs, and then I got people asked me to do it another place. And pretty soon I was in Reno, Nevada, and Carolinas, and all over. So it is something that's, especially in our segment of society, diabetes really is running rampant. And it's something that we should understand. If we go back when a lot of us gray hairs in here were young, you didn't hear much about diabetes, did you? Not much about diabetes at all, or cancer or some of those. But I've found a common bond between all these, and we're going to talk about some of those today. With Frog, he was a drag racer, and he had a chase bike also. He pulled a drag bike back after a run and stuff. So this is a picture of Frog on his little bike he pulled his big drag bike back with. So in memory of Frog, that's why this program is going today. Diabetes, confused, unsure. There's a lot of things we don't know, isn't there? Our goal for today is to understand the challenges of being diabetic, and also something I've added, if you've seen this program before, it's not the same as it used to be. So you can't change your health until you change the way you think. And that'll be one of our goals today, is how we think about things. And that's pretty important, isn't it? Because how we think makes a difference in how things go. Okay, approximate number of people in the United States with diabetes. About 30 million of us, and about 60 million have diabetes and don't know it, or they're pre-diabetic. Would the pre-diabetic people that know you are, and diabetes, a person that has diabetes, if you wouldn't mind to stand up. Okay, reach out and touch 2 more people. Okay, if they touch you, okay, or point it. Okay, so you stand up if somebody's reached out and touched you. Okay, now take along, this is probably the number of people that really will have diabetes proportion-wise in our society. Okay, you can sit down. So you see, half the people in this room stood up, didn't they? So is this pertinent to us? It might be more pertinent to you than you think, because we'll get to have a different thought about diabetes as we go forward. How many countries are there in the United States? I mean, in the world? Yeah, 165, 190 now that they're saying. And we're third. That's something, isn't it? A lot of diabetes here. 7th leading cause of death in the USA, diabetes is, and expected to go to number 3. That's pretty pertinent, isn't it? Okay, uncontrolled diabetes will lead to a lack of blood flow and numbness to your hands, to your legs, to your feet, to your kidneys, to your heart, to your brain, and can cause death. 40% of the riders with diabetes, okay, put this into your head, 4 out of 10 of us will have to have either kidney dialysis or a kidney transplant or die. That's the 3 choices you'll have. 4 out of 10. That's a big deal, isn't it? It's something, and how we take care of ourselves while we have diabetes will make the difference in whether you're in one of the 6 or 4, probably. Can't say that 100%, of course. High blood pressure. How many people in here know what their blood pressure is? Oh, wow, that surprises me. That's good. I take my blood pressure, or try to take my blood pressure every day. You know, we need to be on top of that, don't we? It causes a lot of other problems too we're going to talk about today, diabetes does. Sometimes the signs and symptoms don't show up for 10 years. And what about that? When you look at that, much of the damage is irreversible by then. Man, should we be getting, if you're below 45, should we be getting a doctor's checkup every 2 years? Or if you're over 45, getting a doctor's checkup every year? They can tell so much by just pulling your blood, can't they? And one thing I want to point out today about this is an educational program. It's not meant to give medical advice. So if you're wondering about diabetes or your blood sugar was really, really high today, talk to me about it later, and you probably should go and see your doctor. But this is for education today. 2 types of diabetes. We're going to talk pretty much all about type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, your pancreas shuts down and it's a different animal than type 2 in some ways. Very complex, and it's different. You know, we all think we got exactly the same type of diabetes, but we don't. It's a complex disease. No cure for diabetes at this time, but they're finding some things out on how we eat that really is going to make a difference as we go forward. It's education. You know, we have a wonderful medical system in the United States, don't we? I mean, it's really, really good. But they deal with what? One side of the equation, don't they? They deal on taking care of people that already have trouble. And there's not enough money in the other side of the equation for teaching people not to get the diseases and teaching better ways of life. So we need to think about that also. And today we're going to talk about the other side of the coin here a little bit. Is there any good news about diabetes? Because it's such a bad disease that, well, the good news, a couple different things. One is it's such a bad disease that the pharmaceutical companies can make millions and billions of dollars on this, actually, if they find more different things that will take care of diabetes. So we got pharmaceuticals working on this because they can make a lot of money. And the second thing is we're finding so much difference on not just diabetes, but cancers and all other things like that, and how we eat. And we're going to talk about that today. Well, what is diabetes? Let's make sure we all understand that. Diabetes is about sugar, too much or too little sugar. And when I explain things today, I'm going to try to keep things, I'm not going to dive deep into these things, and I want to make this simple so it's simple to understand. So too much or too little sugar. Most foods, especially carbohydrates, turn into sugar, don't they? Something really to think about. Okay, so this is what we'll go through a few 5 or 6 slides here just so we're all on the same page. This glucose, sugar is glucose. This glucose or sugar travels to the cells through the blood stream. Glucose is used by the cells as fuel. So it really doesn't have any nutritional value, but it has value using for fuel for our cells. The pancreas makes insulin. Okay, and insulin is sent to the cells through the bloodstream. When insulin reaches a cell, it unlocks the cell so the glucose may enter the cell. Okay, you got that? And I'm going to give you something else to think about that. When you have diabetes, the body does not make enough insulin and the sugar has trouble entering your cells. I want you to visualize a room, a hallway that's this wide and this tall. And let's run this out for a mile. But as far as we go out for a mile, it gets smaller. So the sides get narrower, the hallway we're going down, walking out a mile, gets narrower, and the ceiling starts coming down, and the floor starts coming up. When you get clear out to the mile, there's only one room for one person to get through. So you got that in your mind? On each side of this hallway, there's a whole bunch of doors leading into small rooms, all doors up and down this hallway. And as the door opens up and in, there's a small person, and he's called insulin. And then there's a whole bunch of other small people, and they're called sugar. And as they come in, the insulin comes in, and the insulin opens this door here, and that's a cell, opens the door in the cell, and one unit of sugar goes in that cell. Now there's so many that all these sugars aren't going to have enough insulin to open the doors. So as you get clear down that mile out and the hallway gets smaller and smaller and smaller, it gets down so small that only one molecule of sugar or of insulin can get through. And that leaves a whole bunch of other sugar molecules, sugar little people in there. So what sugar, these small people, they're real sticky, aren't they? And there's not enough insulin to open all the doors, so some of the cells don't even get any sugar. And you get down to that small place where only one can get through, and then there gets to be a traffic jam, doesn't there? Well, that's what our arteries going down gets to what we call capillaries. And capillaries are so small that sometimes only one cell can get through a capillary. So you see what we're talking about here now? And it's getting down, so you got your red blood cells with just oxygen, and your white blood cells, they fight infection. So we got this down, and when they get down there, see, if there's too many, it starts plugging up that doorway at the very, very end, doesn't it? Harmful sugar builds up in the blood. This is called hypoglycemia, high sugar. Okay, and I want you to just take a quick look at this, because I'm going to tell you there's 40 trillion cells in your body. Let's look at how much a trillion is. So and I just, the other day I thought about, let's compare this to minute. Everybody knows how many minutes there is in an hour, don't we? Okay, let's think about that. But in 1 million minutes, it takes 1 year and 11 months would be comparable to get that amount of time gone. 1 billion minutes, and we're thinking cells, aren't we? But 190,000 years for enough minutes to go by for that. 1 trillion minutes is for enough time to go by for that. It is about 2 million years. And we take 40 trillion cells in our body, 40 trillion cells times 2 is about 80 million years compared to minutes, compared to cells. Can you imagine how complex our body is? And every cell has some kind of a blood supply or some kind of capillary going to it. So you see how complex this can be? Blood fasting, and if you got your blood tested today, that's milligrams per deciliter or below. If your test was 100 or below, then you don't have diabetes or prediabetes. This is a little bit hard today, because Pete and I were talking about this a little bit, and because a lot of you have eaten before you come. But if you're probably below 140 or maybe even 180 if you ate very close to this, you're probably still okay. But you start getting up around, anybody that has a blood test today on this above I would say just out of the sky, above 200 or so, larger than that, why you probably should go see your doctor. Would you think that's a fair statement, Pete?
Correct, sir.
Okay, anything I should add to that?
No, sir.
Okay. You look at this from 100 to 100, and remember this one, because I know some of you are between 100 and 125 today. So then you're pre-diabetic. So remember that, because we're going to get into this a little bit more later on. If 126 or above, and this is fasting for at least overnight, something like that, to get these that are close. Let's just say this black line that I made across the page, or that my wife Connie made, I should say, because I'm not very good, and Connie is very, very patient with me. Maybe not, but it has put all my slide presentations together and stuff, and I appreciate that, Connie. But you see, this is just a small range here, isn't it? Normal blood sugar, 90 to 130 or something like that. 2 hours after below 180, but blood sugar starts at here. Let's just call it 100, okay? And 100 and below to 0 is the range. But man, if you start getting down to like a difference for different people, but 50 or 60, something like that, you're going to act like you're intoxicated. There's a chance that you might pass out. When you start getting low blood sugar, that's a really, really dangerous thing. If the people you ride with have problems, you sure need to know. If they have diabetes, and they will tell you what they want you to do, and it'll probably be something that's sugary that they can take that will bring that. And you know what? I've seen, I run ambulance for 20 years. I've seen giving that sugar and pop, they're back. What happened? What happened? They're just that quickly for getting sugar added into their bloodstream. Okay, so you see how dangerous it is. They could die when you start getting low in here. When you look here, and I know a girl that had blood sugar of 1200. She died of diabetes, but you can see you got a big range to go here. We'll talk about diabetic coma, and we'll talk about diabetic shock when we come to the end. Okay, this sugar, it damages these small vessels, especially when it gets down to the capillary where only one molecule of sugar can get through, or one red blood cell can get through. It damages large blood cells too, but blood vessels also, but you kind of don't know that, you know what I mean? Because you take a big blood vessel and you know there's a little sugar build up in the side and a little sugar build up in a different place, and then as it gets narrower, sometimes it's not a standard ratio getting smaller. Sometimes your vessels are a little closer, and sometimes they're a little ways away. So those narrower places, some sugar maybe starts hanging up on that, so that blood vessel is actually a little smaller going through there, isn't it? Okay, what does it affect? Your brain, your eyes, your heart, your kidneys, your male reproductive organs, your feet, your legs, your nerves, everything, doesn't it? So we should know some about this. Let's look at each one of these by themselves. Okay, we're going to talk about a few slides with brain. Strokes, cerebrovascular attacks. When it gets so much pressure in some of these vessels that the vessel ruptures. Okay, and that's brain. I think I'd rather have a heart attack than a stroke. But we're taking a look at this, and it's the sugar buildup that bothers your brain. Also, dementia. The sugar, too much sugar in your system is going to start plugging those little capillaries in your brain, causing dementia. You know what Mayo Clinic is calling? Mayo Clinic, Rochester, Minnesota. We've all heard about it, right? Top on the list. You know what? They have something. It's called type 3 diabetes now. Anybody heard of type 3 diabetes? They're calling this in Mayo Clinic. And type 3 diabetes is dementia, Alzheimer's, because they're pretty sure that this sugar problem that we're seeing with diabetes is also causing Alzheimer's and many dementia problems. So they're working into this. So taking care of ourselves when we have diabetes is so important that I can't emphasize it enough. Elevated blood sugar, Alzheimer's, and other dementias. And I'm sure if you're like me when you're getting some older, man, you're worried about that, aren't you? I am anyway. Man, can you think of anything worse than getting dementia and forgetting about everything, even your friends or what you did? You know, so taking care of ourselves is so important. My mom had dementia or Alzheimer's. I don't know which one it was, but man, when she don't even know her own kids part of the time, it's pretty heartbreaking. It sure is. You know what she drank all the time, all day long, every day? Pepsi. We'll get into that a little bit better. I think that's the cause of a lot of our problems there also. Second most common cause of dementia is diabetes. Second most common cause after Alzheimer's. Okay. Lose weight, prevent dementia. At age 85, the big hospitals are saying that 50% of us will have some form of dementia. I don't think this was true in the past, but our diets are changing so much that it's really important for us to know. If you have diabetes, you have a 77% higher risk for dementia. That in itself should tell us how important it is to take care of ourselves if we have diabetes. Let me tell you about a study here. And this study, you can see it was called the Thought Study. It was 2,000 people, 65 years old, and it was a 7-year study. Pre-diabetic participants, and we're looking at 100 to 115. So what was the range? It was 100 to 125, wasn't it? Okay, but if you're just 15 higher from the 100 where we want to be at, so we're not diabetic or pre-diabetic, just 15 milligrams per deciliter. Doesn't sound like very much, does it? But you're 18% more likely to be diagnosed with dementia with just that small amount, larger blood sugar. If you're diabetic and you're at 160 and you compare that to being at 190, 30 doesn't sound like very much, does it? Because when you have diabetes, I would say a lot of times, if you're about average, you're around 160 or so. Would you say that's right? Yeah, and she was telling me that I could ask her questions. She's been diabetic for 50 years. So you can see, that's average. If you're diabetic, you're high like that compared to normal people, okay? So just 30% higher. That makes you 40% more likely to be diagnosed with dementia. Big deal, isn't it? Pretty sombering, actually. Okay, we're done with the brain. Now we're going to look at the eyes. Diabetes, the leading cause of blindness. The leading cause, number one. Blood vessels become weak and rupture, glaucoma, cataracts. How about your heart? And we'll go back to your eyes, you know. You don't wait till you have trouble with this if you have diabetes, or even if you don't have diabetes. You better be taking care of it before the problem gets major. Because after it gets major, it's too damn late, isn't it? The heart attack, arterial problems, plaque builds up. What's the number one killer in the United States? What causes most of our deaths? Heart disease, absolutely. So should we be paying attention to this in more ways than just diabetes? We sure should, shouldn't we? Okay. So kidney, neuropathy, bladder infection. You remember we was talking about and all these doors, and we don't have enough little people that are called insulin to open these doors, so the sugar goes on by, doesn't it? It can't. So if you have diabetes and these cells can't open up, where does all that sugar go? Yeah, right where it shouldn't go. Small vessels, the waste products left in the blood too don't get through there because the sugar has got it partially blocked. It allows protein to spill into your urine. That's why, you know, you hear everybody that has diabetes, man, you got to pee all the time. You're trying to pee out all of that sugar. It affects all the other organs in your entire body, everything. And you know, we think about how complicated our body is. 40 trillion cells. Is there room for things to go wrong? There certainly is, isn't it? And the number one cause that diabetes that we work at is sugar sticking up everything, plugging up everything, isn't it? I got some pictures that you'll never forget coming up because it shows the results of those small vessels getting plugged up. Male reproductive organs. Nobody likes to talk about ED, do they? But I'll tell you what, diabetes leads to ED. We're sure of that, erectile dysfunction. Also infection. Pain during urination. How about the feet and legs? And we all hear this. We hear about amputations, don't we? We hear about amputations of the body. And usually it is the peripheral, isn't it? The farthest away. Feet, legs, common. When you think about that, the healing, you know, because you remember when we talked about neuropathy here, we just went through that. What does that do? That makes your nerves so if you got a problem, that say you got a little scratch on your foot, you don't know you've got a little scratch on your foot, do you? I think the next slide coming up, I can't remember for sure, is a picture of a guy called Teach, John Uckman, abate of Iowa. Anybody ever heard of him? Smart guy. But he has had diabetes for a long time. And if you take a look at his foot. And he's had diabetes for a long time. He should have been on top of that, you say. He didn't know it because he couldn't feel it. Now his foot's okay now, but look at that. He said, I couldn't believe it when I looked at my foot. And he's had it for a long time. But it can lead to this. And what are we going to have there? Amputation. And why the feet? Because remember when the blood vessel gets smaller, when our hallway got smaller and smaller and smaller, that's where this diabetes gets there with the sugar and plugs up farthest away from our heart, because that's the farthest away where the smaller capillaries are. It's not a big blood vessel anymore. The neuropathy destroys nerves, damages nerves, pain, tingling, numbness, burning of the hands and feet, your thighs, damage of involuntary nerves. Boy, do we want that happen. You know what makes us breathe, the involuntary nerve and the heartbeat, all those type of things. We need to think about that. Lanchart?
What are other causes of neuropathy besides diabetes?
I don't know. Pete? Pete's a PA.
Vascular disease, meaning you've got some obstructions to the distal, or excuse me, the lower portions of your extremities. Be one of them.
There's chemical toxins that also create neuropathy.
Say that again, louder.
Chemical toxins, like a car painter with all the different paints. And
Sure. People that work in gas stations and stuff have a lot of the hydrocarbons and stuff will cause that to plug up. But I guess that's as close as we come. If I don't know something, I'll say I don't know it. But Pete knows because he's been a PA forever and he'll tell us everything. Right, Pete? Pete got me a mic so I can walk around too. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Pete. Anybody ever know Dago from the club I ride with? He just never took care of himself. He died of diabetes. But you look at his, he got some heated gloves. He really thought that was the deal. Well, so he turned them up so much that it burned his hand. but he didn't know it because he couldn't feel it. And you think about the other type of things that happen where we can't feel our injuries. That's so important when you saw the feet injuries there that we just looked at. You know, if you're riding somebody and you're going cross country, and they have diabetes, man, they need to take and look at their feet every night and wash their feet and take special good care, look for little scratches and that kind of stuff, because if they don't look for them, they don't know they're there, and it can end up like with John's foot. And that just swelled up so much that all of a sudden it ruptured that way. It didn't just get that way over a long period of time. But you can see also over here, and Dago told me that he touched a pan there. But it didn't hurt because he can't feel a lot of the peripheral. Okay, so we've talked about the brain, the eyes, the heart, kidney, male reproductive, feet, legs, nerves. Okay, how much sugar should you have? Anybody know? Well, simply put, sugar is not even recommended. We don't need any sugar. Sugar has no known nutrients. When I say that we don't need any by extra sugar, of course we need some. We don't need only microscopic amounts. We consume 40% more sugar than we did in 1950. When we look and think about this, you know, if you go to a grocery store, sugar has been added to 80% of the groceries there. Now, why would they do that? You bet.
Get you hooked.
And we've got a slide about that, pictures of the brain coming up to see, because sugar sometimes is just as addictive as cocaine. And we in this room all are addicted. The American Heart Association, each slide I have here, these are not my opinions. Usually I go to Mayo Clinic or some doctors that are really, really in top. I have read untold amounts of magazines and studied this a lot and still learning a lot. No more than 6 teaspoons per day of sugar for women. No more than 9 for men. This is American Heart. High blood sugar equals high triglycerides. That's little pieces of fat that go in your blood. And there's a lot of other things that go in your blood. And you see when these sugar molecules got down, making it sticky through narrow parts of your arteries, and also your veins. Your veins come back to your heart. Your arteries take blood away from the heart. So high blood sugar equals high cholesterol. How many know what their cholesterol is? Oh boy, 15%? Everybody should know what your cholesterol is. We know more about the pressure in our tires in our bike than we know about the pressure in our body. Don't we? I mean, we really do. And it's something, who's going to do that for you? Nobody. It has to be you. And you can't make people do these things we're going to talk about today. You got to want to. And man and woman living together, you know, it's best if you both want to. You know, that's going to make things go. High blood pressure, high central body obesity. We'll be talking a lot more of that later. Sugar is a weapon of mass destruction. It's not our friend. Sugar is poison. Infection, our white blood cells. We looked at, now let's talk about our white blood cells here for a minute. You know, got all these red blood cells going through your body. Then you got some white blood cells going through. White blood cells will multiply if you have infection in your body. Hi, John. Very, very thing to think about. We look at this, white blood cells. Okay, we take a white blood cell and eating bacteria. So you ever see the Pac-Man deal where that little mouth comes along and eats up stuff? Well, that's what the white blood cells are doing to the bacteria in our body. But if we drink only water, one white blood cell eats 14 bacteria. But if you drink one soda, one white cell eats only 5 bacteria. If you have 2 sodas, comes down to eating only one bacteria. That's pop. Why? You know, is soda something we all drink? It sure is, isn't it? Pretty much. A few of us have tried to quit, or a few of us have quit. So soda has no remember that. Soda has no nutritional value. The only thing you get in soda is sugar. You aren't going to get any protein. You know, read your labels on a lot of these things. But it's just plain flat ass a bad actor, isn't it? Sugar is. Sugar consumption from one 12-ounce can of soda. Okay, and that's the little cans. When I put this together, I thought using water would be a good one, you know, because instead of drinking water instead of pop, so the pH, the acid level, is only 7. So you go to Mountain Dew, look what the acid level is, and 11 teaspoons in that little can of pop. 11 teaspoons of what? Sugar. And how much sugar do we need? Less than that. Less than that for our whole day, don't we? How about orange slice? There's about 12 teaspoons. Dr. Pepper, 9 teaspoons. I'm just going to call soda 10 teaspoons of sugar as we go through today. So Coca-Cola, a little less than 10. Pepsi, 10. Battery acid has 0 sugar in it, but see what the pH is, clear down to 1. So you see, when soda has no value at all except for calories, so we get no nutrition and we get all these calories to make us fat. In that 10 ounce or 12 ounce or whatever it was, the small cans or the small bottles, around 240 calories. It's really something, isn't it? Why do you see this? Shelf space. Grocery stores talk about shelf space. They want to put stuff on the shelves, you know, and you can see a kid can see it from down below, an adult or even a tall person. Is there some visual contact there? Look at it, clear down the aisle. And all it is water with a bunch of bad stuff added to it and a taste to it that makes you crave it. And you see, when I talked about cocaine and sugar, that we crave this. Have you ever heard somebody, and this is advertisements that food companies are putting out. You can't eat just one. Well, you really can't because you're addicted and you eat one. But they don't tell you that side of the story, do they? But look at the shelf space soda has, because they make a lot of money on it and we, the people, buy it. Come back to buy more, yep. Okay, so you take a look at this. This is a kid did this, and you look at this, and here's different things, but you can see here's milk. Look how much there is in just that little, what is that, a half pint, a pint of milk? And there's chocolate milk. Look how much more there is in that. But let's just cut it off here at these bottles and cans, you know, because these are things we do not have to have. We don't have to have these things. But look at the sugar in all this soda and beverage like that, clear up to the super big gulp. Look at that. And I think that's 24-ounce size there. This is what we're being fed in. Why are they putting this in there? Because we're addicted and we crave it. Pop is one of the worst things that you can drink. And you say, I drink diet pop. That's worse than regular pop because of some of the sweeteners they put in there is 1,000 times sweeter than sugar. And the other things that they put in there to make it sweet. So you think you're going to do things good by drinking diet. But take a look at that. That's a pretty important thing for us to remember, because how much sugar do we need? None. Okay, so what's that doing to us? It's making us fat, it's giving us diabetes, even if you aren't full-pledged. You know, and you don't get diabetes. This is still really, really bad for your idea, because you know what? Sugar causes what else? Cancer and a multitude of other things. Well, why don't our government take that away if it's so bad? because there's too much money and they got too much power. The average person, 52 teaspoons a day. And there's 10 teaspoons in. You ever seen, I knew a guy that drank Mountain Dew, because you really get quite a kick out of that. There's up to 12 teaspoons in there, but drank Mountain Dew all the day. Let's say and I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said 10, but this is one to clear on the other end of the bell curve, of course, but 10 times 12 is what? You see what they've done? And the average person, and I think it's more than 52 teaspoons, because what are carbohydrates? Sugar. Yeah, you bet. Okay, so you rarely see the word sugar put on when you look at the label, do you? Why don't you? Because they don't want you to know. And we're getting more educated all the time, aren't we? But if you see 56 different names for sugar, but they all end in OSE. So there's lactose, and there's dextrose, and there's maltose, and what's the worst, most dangerous criminal on our block? Oh, fructose. That's the worst sugar that you can get. Think about this, taking and getting nourishments, okay? It takes 14 ears of sweet corn to get 1 teaspoon of sugar, okay? So, 1 teaspoon. So, if you look at that and it's 10 times or whatever, you'd have to eat 140 ears of sweet corn to get the same amount as you get of fructose in a pop if the sugar was all fructose in a pop. So you see how bad this animal is? Some say sugar is as addictive as Coke. Take a look at this next slide. And here's the normal brain. See the red and yellow in it? And that's dopamine. You know, that's your pleasure sensors. But a cocaine user and sugar user, you see, what is that brain craving? More cocaine, more sugar. And you say, Slider, this is bullshit. That's not that way. It is. Why don't we hear that?
Is that why they call cocaine booger sugar?
I don't know, Landshark. You'll have to ask Pete. But isn't this something? And this is not something made up or Slider's just doing this because it makes a show. This is, I just about said the wrong word there. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. Sugar problems, it makes us fat, and also it depresses us, doesn't it? You know, you want to go, especially women, you know. It's a little different with us men, but it shouldn't be. But women, they all want to look perfect, and they see all the stuff in Vogue magazine and all of how it has to be, you know. Well, life isn't that way. And one thing I want to make understand, because if you got your body mass index back here, which I hope that you all did, and we're going to talk about that later, you know, we are just all great people, no matter what size, and we shouldn't be feeling bad or anything, you know. But unfortunately, in our society, people make other people feel bad because of their size, and that's wrong. I would love my wife whether she's skinnier or fatter, you know. But you know, that's true. So much of the time when we talk about this sugar and stuff, then everybody feels bad or whatever. No, we're just trying to be better. You know, and you know what? Just because I'm thinking about this, you know, you don't even have to lose a lot of weight sometimes. You know, 1 pound of fat, if you just think of 1 pound of fat, how long are the blood vessels in 1 pound of fat? You know, how many feet would it be, or how would you do that? Anybody have any idea?
I don't think there's any blood vessels in fat.
There is 5 miles plus of fat in there. Right, Pete?
10 is what I've been told.
I put, you know why I put 5 in? because that sounds a little more, and this is Mayo Clinics. This is not what I think. But 7 miles of blood vessel in the fat. And he's saying 10, and he's a PA, so he should know way more than I do. But you see where we're at here. So even if you just lose 10 pounds, and let's say it's only 5 miles, 10 pounds gives 50 miles less that the blood has to push through. And fat, well, I better wait till I get to it. I get all wound up here. And this guy here, he's a pediatric endocrinologist. And so he's talking about kids. You see our kids? I'll tell you a story you're not going to believe. When me and my brother Chopper Charlie were 12 and 8, our dad brought us home something. And I'm 81 now. I can remember the day yet. He brought us home a bottle of orange pop. Not one apiece, for us both. Now, would a kid today think they was really getting something if they got a can of pop? Wouldn't even think. But I can remember that yet, and I can remember where we're at. And because we had that, my brother Chopper's always been a mechanic, and I haven't. You know what he did? He says, come on, and we took the can of pop, or the bottle of pop, and we went into the shop, and he grabs a 12-penny nail, I believe it was, maybe it was 16, and he takes it on the grinder, and he sharpens that, and then he gets a hammer, and he sets the can of pop here, and I held it, and then he took and he pounded that nail down through the cap of that, and then it went out a lot slower, you know, so when we sheared the pop, you know. But point being, you know, today, all the kids get pop, including us big kids, you know. You know, you just as well drink a can of beer than pop, maybe not. But we shouldn't be drinking this stuff. Carb counting, we'll just go through that a little bit. You count the carbs because it helps you control the sugar, okay? Make sure you talk to your diabetic consultant, your dietitian and stuff like that. They can help a lot with this stuff. Read the label. See, total fat, you know, 2 hombres that should never be hanging out together, and that's fat and sugar, because that explodes things too. Okay, average American consumes 492 grams of sugar. A lot of us that understood grams and stuff, that way of counting when we were younger, why we understand what a gram is. And you look at this, but you look at this, and we should be between 120 and 200 grams, you know. But we consume that much. So there's a slice of bread, half a cup of mashed potatoes, beans, corn, half cup, cereal, that type of thing. Here's what we do. If you're really counting your calories and really trying to control your diabetes, this is what you should: 30 grams at breakfast, 30 grams at lunch, 30 grams at dinner, 30 grams for a snack. How much is it in just a big Snickers candy bar? You know, man, you can't have those kind of snacks. But there's where you should be. And let's go back a slide or two. Look at there. So 120 grams, that'd be 480, wouldn't it? You're 4 times over the average person. And you say, oh, it's just carbohydrates, you know, that's okay. No, carbohydrates, and you take into mashed potatoes and you dig your deal in and you throw it on your plate. The minute you swallow that, that's turning into sugar. But don't forget to put a bunch of butter on that. That's fat. And then a bunch of gravy, too. You see what we're doing to our bodies? We're poisoning ourselves. And we're paying somebody else to do it. White rice, potatoes, that turns right into sugar about immediately. Choose fruits and vegetables. You're going to hear a lot about fruits and vegetables. Portion size, get that carb counting book or use an app. Okay, The person that I was hoping that would be here today, coming with Mason, is not here. But last weekend I was talking at Genesis Hospital in the Quad Cities, and he comes down and he says, Slider, I want to tell you a story. And I says, what is it, you know? And he says, well, I lost 60 pounds in 7 months. Can you believe somebody could do that? And he was all pumped up and telling me all about it. And I says, how did you do that? He says, it's pretty simple. I just quit eating anything white. Huh. Well, look at some slides coming up. Don't eat anything white. Man, that's how much he lost, be 70 pounds in 6 months. I didn't eat anything white. And you look at this, the top 10 worst processed food, processed. Anybody like bacon here? Yep. Yeah, we love it. Yeah, some of us do. You know, is that a processed food? It absolutely is. How about hot dogs and all that kind of stuff? We've got to stay away from that junk food. Most hospitals have a service that help you with that. Signs and symptoms if you're getting diabetes and you don't know it. And a friend of mine said his son come up and was telling him all these symptoms, and he says, you've got diabetes. And he picked out really thirsty, infections that don't heal up, and then having to pee a lot. That's a good sign that somebody has diabetes. Okay, how about extreme weight loss? Now, I thought you said this is about sugar and fat, Slider. Because you know the little men that was called insulin, you remember, that come in and open them doors? You get extreme weight loss because when you get to a certain point and don't take care, all those cells are closed up. No fuel can get in them at all because there's no little men called insulin to open the door. Your pancreas is not producing any insulin. Okay, vision problems, being tired all the time, slow healing scratches. You don't want your foot turning into what a teacher man was, do you? Or the slide I showed afterwards, because that's going to be an amputation of that guy's foot, wasn't it, eventually? Yep. But when do we take care of that? You got to take care of it way before it happens. And if you're pre-diabetic and you're in this room, you better be paying attention to some of this stuff. We all should be paying attention, because drinking this pop and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to do us any good. We'll talk about calories coming up. You know, pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetes, likely to get heart disease, the main killer in the United States, more likely to have a stroke. Anybody know anybody that's had a stroke? Man, and one side doesn't work and the mouth goes down and drools and that kind of stuff. Man, we need to stay away from that. And if we're predisposed with some of these other problems, we better be thinking, ladies and gentlemen, how can you prevent or delay type 2 diabetes? Everybody thinks exercise is the key, and it is. But, you know, you think, if I say you need to go to the gym and exercise, and you think somebody lifting the weights and all muscle bound up. No, you just got to walk. But not at a walk like this. You got to walk like this. When you're out walking, it needs to be accelerated a little bit. So, physical, lose weight, especially making it come out off the belly fat. Eat healthy foods with less calories, alcohol, soft drinks, smoking, heart disease. You say, boy, I hope you don't talk about alcohol and smoking. Yeah, I got a section on that coming up. Diabetes has no cure, only treatment, but they're finding out our diets are sometimes even reversing diabetes now. The plant-based diets. This is a big deal, because all of us in this room are Midwesterners that have had meat and potatoes and apple pie, haven't we? And it's harder for us to understand that we should change. What's the big deal about belly fat? Because belly fat, you know, the fat in there it excretes. The belly fat excretes, and it excretes things that cause inflammation. And inflammation, what does that cause? Cancer and diabetes and all of those other diseases. And it also excretes a bad protein. So belly fat causes, and we're all guilty of that, stroke, heart disease, dementia, colorectal cancer, sleep apnea, type 2 diabetes, and on and on and on. And how hard would it maybe be just to quit drinking pop if you drink 5 cans a day? Losing belly fat can reduce diabetes. Dr. Oz. And what are we talking? Fruits and vegetables, that type of a thing. Belly fat, take your height and divide it by 2, and that's what your waist should be. If you're 70 inches tall, your waist should be 35 inches around. That was a hard one to take, wasn't it, Landshark? Pressure. But seriously, you know, we need to think about this kind of stuff. But as I mentioned before, we're all good people, and whether you're big or small, you're still okay with me, you know.
I did the math, Slider.
Okay. I won't ask you.
I'm not overweight, I'm just under tall.
You're one of the wisest people I know. You know that? If you haven't met Landshark, make sure you introduce yourself. Risk factors, family history, yeah, that is some. But family history usually goes back to maybe the family was too heavy too. Family history doesn't make as much difference as you would think unless that everybody is big. Being over 40, that includes a lot of us in here. A poor diet, that includes probably all of us in here. Overweight with belly fat. Risk factors continued. Lack of physical activities, smoking. How many people in here have, I quit smoking. How many people have quit smoking? Stand up if you quit. Stand up if you've quit smoking. Okay, everybody look around. If you're a smoker, there is hope for us, isn't there? There certainly is. Okay, sit down. And I'll tell you what, those of you that haven't smoked, and then you sit and you look at people that smoke and say, why don't they quit? Well, I'll tell you what, it's the worst thing that I have quit, and I've quit several things. So smoking was really, really, really hard to quit. Oh, it was a son of a gun to quit. So you don't have judgment on the people who haven't quit. But those of you that haven't quit, and you look around and see all of us that have quit, it can be done. But it's not easy.
I'm not fat, that guy's fat.
That guy's fat, huh? Yeah, and that's what we think too, you know. If I hope you all got your body mass index. If you didn't, on break, go back and get your body mass index, because I'm going to talk about that, and it's pretty important that we know that, because you'll be surprised kind of where you probably fit. But smoking, alcohol is another one. How many people in here quit alcohol? Stand up if you've quit alcohol. Okay, thanks, sit down. That kind of surprised me. Two of my good friends, though. Yeah, it affected my judgment a little bit, didn't it, Connie?
I think so.
Yeah. But quitting some of this stuff is hard to do sometimes. But, let's take about 15 minutes. Make sure you get your body mass index, and the second half, or the second part, is shorter than the first part. So you're done. But let's take a few minutes. Thank you. I'm just talking to somebody at break and telling them about some relation of hers. The A1C, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, was 9.1. And find that out, 7.1? 9.7. It's about 10. That's death we're talking there. They better be on the ball with that.
Well, mine will get there after these caramel rolls.
Maybe you should walk home that little.
A couple people I'd like to thank. One is Pete, and Pete got the microphone for me and stuff. Thank you, Pete. And also Mason sitting back there. Look at all the stuff he's set up here. These aren't going to be for sale or anything, but if I die real soon, why, we'll have this we can pass around. So, but thank you for doing that, Mason. Okay, let's get started.
Oh, good idea.
One thing I want to mention as we start, the antique swap meet in Fremont, Nebraska is coming up. I don't think Land Shark's going, but the rest of you might want to be interested in going. I'm just pulling his leg. He's been there for 50-some years, I think. How long you been there? Long time. But this is really a good opening swap meet for the year. It's smaller than some, but it's really personal and it's really fun to get around there. There's only one poster left, so come up and take a picture of it or whatever. And the date is March 22nd, 3rd, and 4th, coming up at Fremont, Nebraska, in the Armory. There, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's different than it used to be, but that's really a nice swap meet to be at the first of the year. If you have time, why, come join. I'll leave this lying here, and you can come up and take a picture if you want.
Anybody that wants to grab a yard sign.
Okay, anybody that wants a yard sign up here, there's two different kinds. Watch for motorcycles, that's one. Share the road. So, and they were $35 a piece, and they're giving away for free this time, right? Weight loss. Boy, this is a time to talk about weight loss, isn't it? But you know, being on top of this and start changing. I see a pre-diabetic person. I won't mention who it is, but see celery and stuff on her plate. You know, we got to take care of ourselves, don't we? Who's that up to? Me. Yeah, it sure is. The person sitting in your chair. Weight loss. Let's talk about, and we're here, diabetes. I'd like some feedback at the end of class also, and whether you like the extra part from diabetes like this here. But finding your path to weight loss has a huge payoff. And here, stroke, that's weighing less. Sleep apnea, that can be eliminated in a lot of cases with losing weight. Heart disease, the number one killer, that comes from too much sugar. Lung disease, liver disease, pancreatic disease. What happens if you get cancer of the pancreas? You know, that affects a lot of different things. Gallstones, female disorders, arthritis, inflamed veins, cancer, breast, urine, colon, esophageal, pancreatic, kidney, prostate. All this stuff is related to sugar. All of this is related to sugar. Here it is. If you didn't get your own body mass index, here you can take a look. Like if you're, I'll just use me. I'm a 5'11", and I weigh 193 pounds. So I go over, here's 193 pounds. My body mass index is a 27. So I got a little bit more weight to lose yet. If your body mass index, and you got your body mass index, and your body mass is over 40, that should be your number one priority in life, is getting that down. And where I got my information, Mayo Clinic, but I think 30, if it's over 35, into the obesity range, why that should be your number one priority in life, getting that down. And who's going to take care of you? It only can come. I quit drinking 37 years ago, and everybody wanted me to. I heard everybody I loved, all that kind of stuff. But finally, I got rid of that demon alcohol, and I quit drinking. But you know who had to do that? Not everybody that loved me, that wanted me so bad to do it. It had to be, I had to make my decision, and you have to make your decision on. I used to weigh 240 pounds. Now I'm at 197. You know, so you can get down. Keep that. You should always know your body mass index. That is a big deal. And you think that's just made up. This is Mayo Clinic's information here. Important stuff. Okay? Body mass index. Because if you're 40 or more, or 35 or more, diabetes, you're 7 times more likely to get diabetes if you haven't got it. Your high blood pressure, 6 times more likely to have high blood pressure. Heart disease, the number one killer, 5 times more likely. See how important this losing weight is? And even if you only lose 10 pounds, you know, it's a big deal. Asthma, 3 times. Sleep apnea, 6 times more likely if you're heavy. Cancer, breast cancer. And breast cancer, alcohol and cigarettes are 2 of them for you women to know that really cause breast cancer. They're high up there, those 2 things. Okay, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, cervix cancer, and on and on and on, right, Pete? How many years were you a PA? How many years you been in the health business?
43.
43 years. Have I said anything in here that's not pertinent and important?
You said everything's important.
No, thank you, but I want, it's not just coming from a pig farmer from Iowa. It's kind of important to know. But you see, we're working on this kind of stuff, and please, I don't want anybody to feel bad about anything. It's just what we want to do for ourselves. It's up to you. Okay, a few of you know me well in here, know Chopper Charlie and I, we raise pigs for a living for our whole life. Last year we put out 34,000 head. And now I got this slide here. How many people like processed foods, salami, sausage, hot dogs, bacon, right? And you go up and follow this here, causes, carcinogenic classification groups. Number 1, causes cancer. Now, who put this out? Somebody that hated meat, right? Yeah. No, it was the World Health Organization put this out. Now you say that's bullshit, because if that causes cancer, we'd know a lot more about it. You know, getting information on cigarette packages, there was 7,000 studies that showed smoking caused cancer. And they finally did get it on there, you know. Well, the meat industry is so strong that you're not going to see that. And I made my living raising hogs. You look at this, cancer causing. Okay, group 2A, and that's red meats have been given 2A classification. And what does that mean? Probably causes cancer. This plant-based diet is a big, and I'm not saying, you know, I'm not telling you what to do. But if you got to eat meat, maybe a 3-ounce size of meat. But I would recommend, if you are overweight, you need to be on a plant-based diet. Animal protein shortens your life, plant protein lengthens your life. Plant-based diet aids in weight loss. It lessens dementia. It helps with blindness, heart disease, circulation, helps with high blood pressure, brings that down, erectile dysfunction, all types of diabetes. And who wrote this? Dr. Dean Ornish. How many people have ever even heard of him before? Good. 2 of you. He is the guru. He's the one that goes clear back. He's the one that pushed all the weeds back for the other people come studying this. So this is the head man, in my opinion, telling you this. Plant-based diet, weight loss can reverse and they've been starting to prove this, even with diabetes, or eliminate many diseases. Read this book, Eat More, Weigh Less, and undo it. There's 2 books by Dr. Dean Ornish. If you're really interested in these are 2 that you should definitely read. Some diseases come from the same origin. So if something causes diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, and go on and on and on, should we be looking at that? We sure should. Most diseases come from the same origin. Inflammation. That's the big word that nobody talks about. And what does inflammation, where does that come from? Fat cells giving off their waste products is one of the big places, and that's why belly fat is so important, because you look on your arms, your legs, there's subcutaneous fat on that, there's just a layer of fat. But when you go to belly fat, that involves and is around all your major organs and covers everything. And even when it's heavy, even getting over and into some muscle. So we need to think about inflammation. That, we think, and it does, think it comes from viruses or bacteria or stuff causing it. The main cause coming here is inflammation. Obesity. If you're up on that 30 body mass index or above, man, you better be paying attention and losing, and it's up to you to do that. If you don't, you'll still be my friend, and it won't make any difference, but it makes a difference to the most important person in your world, and that's you. Lack of exercise. How many people have an exercise program? Wow, great, great. You know what percentage of it was in here? Probably 5%. And the thing that you need to do is go out and walk. That's the best start. You're better off in a gym and doing everything, I'll say that. But if you just go out and walk 20 to 30 minutes a day, there's a big magic number there, though. You got to do it in a week, at least 5 times. So if you go out 30 minutes a day and 5 times, that's 150 minutes. And for some reason, and I don't know why, but you hear this on all different stuff, not all, but most different things that I've studied. That's the magic number, 150 minutes. And go out and do that fast walk. But you don't start with 30 minutes a day. You start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, and do it with somebody you love.
Why do you keep looking at me?
You're the best bad example I got, so I'm sorry. Okay, but lack of exercise, stress. What kind of world do we live in? And some of us with type A personalities, it's more so, isn't it? And you know what? About everybody in this room is that type A personality. You're doers, you're here, you could be doing something different. Some of you are driven from Nebraska, Pierre, South Dakota. Dave back there, my longtime friend. John, coming clear from the north. It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's pretty cool. But we're that stressed guy. We're the doer type people. That's good. And also, stress and poor gut microbiome. Haven't heard much about that. We're going to talk about that to some extent because it's so super important. And most of us don't even know much about it. My wife has educated me on it. Sugar equals acid equals inflammation. There's that sugar again, isn't it? And I'm not going to get in, I'm going to try to keep this real simple today, everybody. I'm not going to get into acidic ketosis or any of those type of things, but just to really understand today, that's our goal. And if you have problems, then they need to see medical people. The more you change to a plant-based diet, the more benefit to your health, period. And all these are my opinions on everything today, and I am very opinionated on a lot of things, and I believe strongly in that, and I'm made by living, raising meat. I've changed the way I used to think. Change your gut microbiome because of the bacteria that lives in there, fungus, the virus, and all their genes, all the bugs in your stomach is so important. But a meat-based diet, you're putting the wrong type of bacteria in your gut. Where a plant-based diet, you're putting all the good stuff in there. Here it is in a nutshell. Good gut health, good everything. Bad gut health, bad everything. Because it affects everything in your body. Gut micro is called a second brain. 80% of your immune system lives in your gut microbiome. 80% of your nervous system lives there. 95% of your serotonin, the feel-good hormone, is made there. And on and on and on. So getting the right microbiome bacteria into your gut is so important. But it's not complicated. You eat plant-based diet. Not complicated. But why don't you hear anybody preaching this more? Because the meat industry is so large now that it controls a lot of things, doesn't it? And you look at control in a lot of these guys. How many people here remember the cigarette machines that used to be in the places? You know? And now what do they replace them with? Candy machines and pop machines. You know? Boy, you just wonder sometimes, don't you? Destructive microbiome, gut, putting the bad stuff in there, dairy, meat, sugar, soda, alcohol, medications, antibiotics, all those things. We go and we got some kind of bug, and what do we get? Antibiotics. Sometimes when these colonies of bacteria in our gut are completely destroyed, they'll never come back. Then like take women, then that passes on to the sisters, to the granddaughters, that type of thing, you know. It's got a long tail to it. Circadian rhythm. How many people have heard of circadian rhythm? Okay, good. There's a handful of you. This is a big deal. You eat during an 8-hour time period. And this is coming around. It's not new stuff, but it's stuff that's finally really coming to the surface strong. Let's say if you ate your breakfast this morning at 7 and your last meal was at 5, then you don't eat any more after that. And it gives that long period in there, and it helps the appetite bug, you know, and many other things. Now, I'll get to this woman, Dr. Pam Pecky, Nobel Prize winner ×2. Should we listen to a person like that? And she's and worked with all of this stuff, you know. You eat during that 8, and 10 hours is okay. 10 hours is more convenient for me because 7 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. And then you do not what? Snack. You don't eat anything till that. And this is changing more about it. If you got a plant-based diet and then do this, the weight will go off without you having to. How many people have ever seen a diet work? One. Okay? And maybe 2.
The only reason I've seen a diet work is because the diet that I was on taught me how to eat correctly and taught me about portion control.
Okay.
And that could stay with me.
Those you couldn't hear in the back, she learned portion control and eating the right food. Those type of things she learned. Wasn't quite the diet. Now, I'm not against diets, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you get this taken care of, and this hourly thing, how much work is it to do that hourly thing? None. And you know why some people do it and some people don't? Got any idea? Because some people decide to. It's that simple. Not a complicated PhD type thing. So much good that comes from that. Every cell has a biological clock, and you're resetting that biological clock. The clock is located behind your eyes. And I wondered, why did I put that in there? And I guess maybe if you're in some quiz show sometime and there's thousands of dollars spending on it and they ask you that question, well, now you'll know where that biological clock is located. 18 hours without food to lose weight. So if you're really doing this to lose weight, then maybe you do it 8 and 4. Don't eat for 14 or 16 hours. That gives a deep cleaning process. That's what cleans your brain. There's a special system in our body that hands this cleaning while we're sleeping. And that enacts better if you're working with these type of hours. It cleans the stem cells even. It'll reduce your fat. This is a very, very, very important concept. Take this one home with you if you don't remember anything else. Overweight or obese, 90 times as likely to develop diabetes as someone who is not. 33% of the men over 20 years old are obese. 33%. Visceral fat increases inflammatory cells. What do we know about inflammatory cells? They cause disease, don't they? And several different kinds. Can cause cancer. Males have more visceral fat than women, but here we are back to fruits, vegetables, plant-based diet. And you look at this, but I was just looking at this picture, don't we? But you look at this guy's belly, it's just a little bit bigger, and look as we go on down. This is Dr. Oz's work, This is our Western culture. The standard American diet, and that's SAD, Standard American Diet, SAD. And that's what they're calling our diets now because we are so based. We eat completely different than we did 50 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. Think about what we have. It's a big deal. If you drive through a fast food place, you're probably not eating very well. And what do we all do? Everybody, because our society is in so much of a hurry and everything, that fast food, and you know what they got for our kids? Happy Meals. Oh my gosh, if you're really good, we'll take you and get a Happy Meal. The worst thing we can do for our kids, but the advertisement companies have got this completely taken over, or you can't just eat one. It's something, they aren't going to make any difference, but we can make a difference. And, maybe you say, Slider, you don't make any difference at all. There's 340 million people in America. But we can make a difference with us, can't we? And that counts. Elizabeth Blackburn. Anybody ever heard of her? Nobel Prize winner. How's your telomeres, Landshark?
How what?
How's your telomeres?
What do you say? I didn't hear you.
How's your telomeres?
What's the word? I'm not hearing.
Telomeres.
Telomeres?
How's yours?
Oh,
Obviously, you don't know. Oh, some people are just fun to pick on. Does anybody know what a telomere is? That's something that makes the difference in how long you live. How'd you all like to live longer? Well, Elizabeth Blackburn found out some of the keys to this. And on the end of your chromosomes, there's little caps on the end of your chromosomes. Just like there's a cap on the end of a cane, to protect it. And if you can have these caps on your end of your chromosomes stay long, you will live longer. Now, isn't that something? And how does she recommend doing this? A plant-based diet. It's such a big deal, and culture. Obesity causes inflammation. Inflammation shortens the DNA, and shortened DNA causes aging. And it's because of the telomeres on the end of your chromosomes. So pretty easy. You notice a pattern here about how much good a plant food diet does? Not just for diabetes. When we're done, I'd like you to somebody tell me if you like this extra stuff in that relates to diabetes, only not in a real close way. But See, if we take good care of our diabetes, we'll do all this other stuff too. Diseases of old age, heart, stroke, cancer, and on. We know what they are, don't we? But to live longer, taking better care of ourselves is really an important thing. Joint damage, for every pound that you lose, 3 to 5 pounds left pressure on your knees and ankles. Why do we lose weight? Somebody makes fun of us, or the spouse complains at you, doctor tells you. Now doctors aren't telling you that. You know, now we got what, 15 minutes, half an hour with the doctor at the most, it seems like. They got to get in and out. You're a unit of the corporations. You know, you're a widget. They got to sit and really tell you about how bad it is for you to be overweight, you know, because there'll be another one just like the next, and you drive yourself nuts. So it's up to us to think about ourselves. People's comments. So we starve ourselves and we lose some weight for a while. You know, but only 15% keep the weight off for 5 years, and 85% regain all the lost weight within 2 years. But just eat a plant-based diet. You can eat all the plant-based diet you want. You can fill yourself completely up, and you still won't have the calories to get fat. Why does this happen? We must have a different mindset. We must have a different mindset. We can go out of here today, out that door that you come in with a different mindset than what you have in, if you want to. But it's up to the person sitting in your chair to do that. Read these books, and this is my favorite, Dr. Joel Furman. Eat to Live. Write that down if you're taking notes. Otherwise, try to remember it. And if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic or overweight, then read The End of Diabetes. This guy is top-notch. I'm sure he's made a lot of money because he sure deserves to. His books are very readable, and they contain the wealth of information. I have another program that's called Live to Ride. And that Live to Ride, part of it's out of his books, but it's on health and how to live another 5 years longer and have those 5 years be quality years. I worked 9 years putting that class together. Not solid, but worked that off. It's important that a diabetic consult with a diabetic dietitian because there's so much that they can help with. Eating the right foods. Take a look at that. Look at that. What's that? Fresh fruits, nuts, vegetables, lean meats, whole grains. You see the color in there? Remember about the guy that lost all that weight in 7 months or 6 months, whatever it was? I didn't eat anything white. Look at the color. If you go to a grocery store, you should stay in this section. That's the place where you should buy your stuff. And what do you eat? What do you eat? You eat what's in your kitchen. So don't buy the junk stuff and bring it home. See anything white there? Anything white there? There's a couple things maybe. This one here has got some cottage cheese in it, I know. So I looked that up. And if you got to eat white, that might be. But stay away from everything white. You see in that salad bar? Junk food, bakery products, candy, sweet drinks, cake, fast foods. You know the dance. Why do they have that much shelf space? You go into these small convenience gas stations now, they got aisles filled with this stuff. High profit, and people are addicted. And you know what? If I had a bunch of M&Ms and I laid some out on all of these tables here, you'd have and I tell you, don't eat them. You'd still have you'd want one, wouldn't you? Yeah. You'd want them all, yeah. Because we've got conditioned response, and like the slide showed you, our brain is conditioned for sugar. Our meals many times are not healthy, and they don't satisfy our nutritional needs. Carbohydrates, sugar. They cause insulin to go up, don't they? And then it causes inflammation and disease. Okay, this one here is if you're trying to lose weight, the average woman in the United States, 2,000 calories a day, the average man, 25. And in my opinion, that's bullshit. We all eat more than that. We all eat more than that. But if you want to lose weight, you work on these calories. Now let's just take a woman and she's got 15 calories. And remember I told you the can of soda that I like, a small one of Pepsi? It is 240. For easy figure, we're going to use 250, you know? Okay, let's just take, we drink only a couple cans of pop a day, okay? So we drink that couple cans of pop a day, so that's 500 calories, isn't it? How many days in a week? So 7 times 500 is 3,500 calories. You know how much a pound of fat, how many calories is in it? Take a guess, 3,500. So if you just do that a week, you'll gain a pound a week. Well, a pound, that isn't very much, isn't it? But how about 52 weeks a year? That's 52 pounds, isn't it? So we need to think about calorie intake. How much in soda, let's see, how much nutritional products do we have in soda? Nothing. Okay. Our weight in 1875, 140 pounds for the men, 123 pounds for female. This year, when I looked this up, 197 for men and 168 for women. Why that massive chicken? You know, our grocery stores, our way that we eat now. Exercise. Now, what if you were exercising in the gym and you had a machine right behind her? Do you think you could run real fast? I think there's some money to be made there for some kind of entrepreneur. You cannot exercise yourself. Listen to this. This is an important slide. Everybody look at it. You cannot exercise yourself out of poor eating habits. Everybody thinks you go to the gym to lose weight. You go to the gym to have muscle mass. You don't go to the gym to lose weight. You go for muscle. You eat to lose weight, and you exercise for your muscle tone and muscle. Each what are you sitting on, Pete? I thought that would only happen to me. But anyway, what you're eating, that's how you lose weight, and your muscle tone is where you come from exercise. So if you have a large Coke, an order of fries, and a Big Mac, in order to walk half those calories, you got to walk 7 miles. How many people are interested in walking 7 miles with me afterwards here? Maybe Jakers, maybe Landshark would do that, to be wondering.
Not since boot camp.
Not since boot camp, yeah. Yeah. So, we're better off skipping some of that bad food, or we're better off walking 7 miles to get rid of just one. Well, it's a pretty easy decision, isn't it? This here is these big milkshakes, and then I've had people say, oh, bullshit, that's not true. Well, unfortunately, it is true. And the fat, remember I said fat and sugar are such a bad combination? And you look at the fat, 1,000 calories, and 675 for milk. So there you see we're at 1,700, and then the other 300 of something that's in there brings that to 2,000 calories. Now, what was a woman? How much should she eat a day?
15 to 25.
Her whole meal with everything? Yeah, well, what do you think? Do you think of anything having a malt or a calorie? I think a lot more of it now than I used, or a malt or a shake, because of the calories in it. I think more of it. But there you've got, she's got all the calories she needs for the whole day. And how much nutrition is in a milkshake or a malt? Not much, is there? Okay, 1 pound of fat is, when you lose a pound of fat, this is what they say, and I don't know whether this is 100% true or not, because I only substantiated it in one place. But if you lose 3 pounds of fat, and you lose 1/4 a pound of muscle. So that if you go to the gym and do that, it's important that you exercise so that you keep your muscle toned up. You know, A pound of fat? Well, we've talked about this, Pete thinks it's 10 miles, and I think it's 5 miles, and Mayo Clinic thinks it's 7 miles. But does that make any difference? No. What makes the difference, because these three numbers that we have are so gigantic. They're gigantic. So no matter who's right in this thing, we're all right. So just about 1 pound of fat. And you think about, does anybody know anybody that's got 150 pounds of extra fat on them? I do, and it's a person I love very, very much. But you know, you can't, and I love him whether he be fat or skinny, but man, it's pretty sad because we get into this appetite thing that where we had sugar pushing us, and it's a hard animal to break. 350 calories in a pound of fat. We talked about that. Exercise, it helps some with the weight, but gets rid of cholesterol, regulates your insulin, and there's exercising when you're diabetic is a pretty important thing, even if it's just walking, but make sure that walking is brisk. And how many minutes should we walk a day? If we walk 5 days a week? 50. Remember, we were supposed to when we did that 150 minutes a week. So 5 into 150, why, it's a pretty easy deal. You got to walk 30 minutes a day. Important stuff. It regulates insulin, and it helps the body use insulin. This is from my doctor, Dr. Peterson. He's retired now. But I asked him, give me something to use in this program I'm going to. It says, exercising 20 to 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week can prolong the onset of diabetes for 15 years. So if you don't have diabetes, you still learn something here today, and a whole bunch of other stuff I hope you learned today. Okay, my present doctor, Dr. John Hilsebeck, I said, give me a statement. He says, if people would drink more water, and I want to tell you what, 70% of you in here today are dehydrated, and you don't even know it. 70%. And what do we drink? Water. Water. Water.
Slender, does coffee count as water?
No, it does not. Coffee is a diuretic. Sorry. You're having a very good day, aren't you? Coffee is a diuretic. So for every cup of coffee you drink, you need to drink a cup and a half of water.
You should kind of like
Beer is supposed to be water. Beer is supposed to be water, yeah, well. I thought that was what fits your schedule better? Exercising 1 hour a day or being dead for 24 hours a day? That was kind of interesting. Okay, 2 habits to develop. Everything, this whole slide says it all. The whole slide, you know, you eat healthy and then you exercise. And that's a big part. Have anybody ever sat through my What Successful People class? 1, 2 people in here. What do we learn from that class? 20% of what you do in life makes 80% of the difference. And this healthy diet and exercise is probably 20% of the 20% that makes the difference. The rat test. They did a big test on rats. And you know what? It's a super big, and it applies to us, because we're mammals also, but it applies to us. They fed them 40% less, and they lived 40% longer. We all eat too much. Plant-based diet, you can eat just about all you want and you'll still be okay. Alcohol and diabetes. If you have diabetes, you shouldn't even drink alcohol. Because what's alcohol made out of? Sugar, isn't it? Yep. But if you do, make sure it's light beer or unsweetened liquor, and maybe only one, so, you know. Alcohol can make your blood sugar go high or low. And people can't understand it. Why doesn't it make it just do one thing? Well, your liver can only process one of those two at a time. Either the sugar or the alcohol. And so when it's doing one, it cannot do the other. And that will make a difference on how much insulin you put out. So all those little insulin guys that are opening the doors for the sugar, you know, they're clear shut off if your liver is just processing sugar. Or if it's processing alcohol, which is sugar, of course, but there's a difference there. When it's processing alcohol, then it doesn't handle the sugar that's already there. Liver, you know, the sugar stores, the liver processes alcohol. We just talked about that. Toxic to everything in your body, alcohol is. You know why they take surgical instruments and sterilize them with alcohol? Because it kills everything, doesn't it? I wished I could go have a beer with somebody, but, you know, I can't. Because I don't want to take a chance of ever getting started drinking again. People don't understand unless you've been in that shoes, you know, that you can't quit. You can't cut back. You can't just go have a couple beers. Oh, you get by with it once in a while. I tried my very best, but it never lasts. Check your blood sugar before you ride. And if you're riding with somebody that's diabetic, you know, you say, hey, have you checked your blood sugar? They know, and they check it, and you know what it is? It's 70. Man, that person better have a little orange juice or a little candy or something. That needs to be brought up, because what does that make a difference? Alcohol, when you do that, you got to have that to operate your brain. Because low blood alcohol, with low blood sugar, remember what we talked about that? Low blood sugar makes you act like you're intoxicated sometimes, you know. You're just not right. You need that brought up. Smoking and diabetes, very bad combination, seriously. Affects how the body uses insulin. Smoking raises blood sugar. Diabetics who smoke are 3 times more likely to die from heart disease than non-smoking diabetics. Does that say something? Big deal, isn't it? Smoking increases the risk of kidney disease, heart disease, nerve damage, infection, and there it's written on those packages. Insulin shock and insulin coma. And we'll go through this fast, because if they're having problems, ask your person that you ride with or the person that you're around, you know, what do you want me to do? And they'll tell you what they want you to do. But maybe the shock, maybe they took too much insulin, the sugar intake is reduced, or they over-exercised. Well, then you go to shock. Signs and symptoms are weak rapid pulse, cool, clammy, profuse perspiration. When we look at this, what's that? You think heart attack there too, don't you? So we go through these, you know, if somebody's in shock, or whether they're in diabetic shock or diabetic coma, if they're having those problems, treat it as the very worst. The most you can do is be wrong, but and a person that has diabetic coma, that's a true emergency. So don't take a chance to think, oh, I think this is just shock. You treat it as the worst. Very important. Diabetic coma, there is what you will see there, but you aren't going to remember all this, are you? But remember, if a diabetic is having a hard time, or they're going down on you, then they need to be in the hospital. That's not a chance to try to figure out what some of this stuff is. Insulin shock, give them some sugar. If they're in diabetic coma and you give them some sugar, it don't make any difference, because they'll probably be high there, but it won't make. But if they're not, remember I told you how quick some of them will come back. We're getting a little sugar. What happened? They're right back with you. Okay, diabetes. Understand diabetes. I hope today, by sitting through this, that you understand diabetes better than you did when you come in. If you're a diabetic afterwards, would you come and tell me if I need to put something else in, or if you learned something from that? Would you do that for me, please? Self-responsibility. It's up to the person in your chair making these decisions. Not up to your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your cousin or your club brother or the people you ride with or all the people in your abate chapter. It's up to you. That's who it's up to. Self-responsibility. It's up to us to support, and it's up to us to help us. Okay, target goals, A1C, we haven't talked about that much, that's about 3 months, and I learned from Pete today that why is it 3 months? Because he told me that's, blood cell lives 3 months, that's why you check your A1C every 3 months. So I found that interesting. Blood pressure below 130 over 80, cholesterol below 200, but you want your bad cholesterol below 100, and your good HDL above 40. Your target goals, blood sugar target range before you eat, 90 to 130. I hope you all got your figure today. Remember, if you haven't eaten for 2 hours before you had that test today, it'll be more accurate. But 2 hours after you, that needs to be below 180 if you're diabetic. Okay, get a physical. 45 years or under, or if you're having any kind of medical problem, get a physical every 2 years. If you're over 45, get one every year. They can do so much today by a little bit of blood that they pull out of your arm. They can tell all kinds of things. Put that on your schedule for sure. Get a physical every year or every 2 years. And if you're having problems, go see a doctor. I know most of us are too stubborn to do that. Eat for health. Weight will take care of itself if you eat for health. And the calendar will work its magic with diets that are plant-based. I really enjoyed being here today. I thank all of you for driving and being here on a nice day when most of us would rather be out riding. I thank the abate South Dakota chapter. You keep bringing me back. You are some of the best doers as the abate chapter that I've ever seen. I'm truly honored to be here, and I'm honored to be able to talk to you. Thank you.